Hello, Public Access presents All About Books with Paul Kinkade.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the celebrated show All About Books. And today, our special guest, our very special guest, is none other than celebrated author Roberta Henderson, whose book, here we might as well get it out of the way right now, is Too Many Husbands. There you go. Welcome, Roberta.
Thank you so much, Paul, and I'm so happy to be here. You know, as you know, it's been just a whirlwind going to all the different cities, so it's kind of nice just to hang out with you and chat.
I see. And what would you say was the inspiration for your book, Too Many Husbands?
Well, it got to the point there was so many of them, and it was getting so confusing. You know, I've lost a few and divorced a few,
And of the two, which did you prefer?
well, actually, it's been more than two, Paul.
No, I mean losing them or to death or
well,
divorce.
they're both real tough. It's a tough thing to do, is going through the emotional difficulties of losing someone. Burying someone, of course, takes more time than divorce.
And is it fair to say you had insurance on some of them?
A little bit here and there.
And how do you define a little bit?
Well, if you read my book, Paul, which I thought you did, you would understand in chapter 4, I made it very clearly how much I got from each and one of my different husbands.
Yeah.
I preferred the European husbands, though. They were a lot more fun, I thought, than the Americans. But,
Normally I would have read the book all the way through, but the review copy I received was in French. I don't happen to read French.
well, I was told differently. I am so sorry.
Yeah.
What language would you like, Paul?
Well, I'd appreciate getting it in the graphic novel.
Graphic novel?
Yes.
Well, if you go to chapter 8,
It's very
and
graphic.
you don't need to read French to know what's going on there, Paul.
But it helps.
You would have seen very clearly what goes on with the graphic novel.
Okay, well, what's next?
Well,
Another marriage or another book?
I've decided to kind of lay off of the, husbands for a while and take a break.
Okay.
I've got enough money to have a good time for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And after all these years, I figured out, really, I don't need to marry someone to have a good time.
And you probably also don't need to marry him to take their money.
True.
True.
But they're always so kind about it.
Well, that's very good. Well, Roberta, I wish you all the best in the future, whether it be with husbands or with a new book. And is there anything you'd like to add?
I was just wondering, are you single, Paul?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm not. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us, and see you next week.
Thank you, Paul.
Welcome, Roberta.
Thank you, Paul. Very happy to be here.
Now, I understand you've just come off shall we say, a very active 3-city tour promoting your book. Is that true?
Oh, Paul, it was a whirlwind of a tour.
Really? And why did you limit the tour to only 3 cities? I'm curious about that.
I just felt that it was so tiring.
Yes.
After a while, you do so many of them. Pretty soon, all the cities look the same.
Especially when they're within 15 miles of each other.
Well, Paul, you take what you're given and you do what you can do.
I understand. Well, tell us a little bit about your book, Too Many Husbands.
Well, I felt there was some need out there to share with others, to understand how difficult it is to have a lot of husbands and to go through the things that I've gone through.
Such as?
Well, Paul, as you know, you can't get married to another until one passes away or you divorce. And those two things are very difficult to go through.
Especially when a person such as yourself, you do it repeatedly.
Yes, I found a lot of comfort in being married with several different men.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And would you say you favored one nationality over another?
No, I think I kind of liked them all. They all had something special to give.
Okay, okay. Such as?
Well, Paul, that's kind of, private.
Well, yes, but we're discussing your book, and there's a lot of private things in the book.
Oh, you read my book, Paul?
Well, I won't say that, but I know there's a lot of private things in the book.
Well, you must have looked at the book then, Paul. Which chapter did you look at, Paul?
4.
4. Well, if you got into 8, there's even more to look at.
Oh.
You might enjoy it.
Well, how about if we take a look at the book so our audience, viewer, can take a look at the book?
Thank you, Paul. This is it, Too Many Husbands. And I hope you buy a copy and enjoy.
And how many copies have you sold so far?
Oh, Paul, at least 25. It's been fabulous.
That's incredible. And is that before or after the 3-city tour?
It was shortly after.
I see, I see. Now I understand that you began this quest for Too Many Husbands at a tender age of what?
I had to get permission the first time. I was around 16.
16.
Yes.
And what do you remember about this particular husband? How old was he, for instance?
He was 32.
32. So he's exactly twice your age.
Yes.
Uh-huh. And who gave permission for this marriage?
My mother. I had to get permission.
And was she financially compensated for this approval?
No, she was just more or less probably, she didn't have to feed me anymore and clothe me.
Oh, you had quite an appetite for a 16-year-old? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I had quite an appetite now.
Uh-huh. Well,
Indeed.
and having read those few chapters that I did, your appetites, how shall we say this, aren't limited to food.
No, I like all sorts of men.
I see, I see. Well, I happen to have a photograph here that I think, could we get a close of that, Juan? A little bit closer? Oh, that's it. Okay, now I happened to do a little investigating here with this photo, and I understand that it was taken in approximately 4 hours after you buried your, who turned out to be your 2nd, 7th, and 12th husband. You married the guy 3 times. What's with the hat, and why were you celebrating? And who were you celebrating with?
Well, I took a cruise to get through this terrible ordeal, and just had a wonderful time down in Ensenada.
I see. That's all you have to say about it. That's kind of sad.
Well, the guy I married 3 times, he was pretty fabulous, and when you fall in love and you miss the person, you go back to them again.
Tell us a little bit about your book, Too Many Husbands. What was the reason you wrote it?
Well, I thought there was a need for women around the world to take a look at how it is when you have so many husbands and the things, the trials and tribulations that you go through.
Trials and tribulations?
Oh, yes, Paul.
Would you care to elaborate?
Well, you know how difficult it is when someone passes away or when you get divorced. It's very difficulty, a lot of difficulty. And I thought maybe it would be helpful for other women around the world that go through the same kind of circumstances.
Statistically, how many husbands have you divorced and buried?
Oh, wow. I think around 12.
12. How many husbands total?
I'm sorry, Paul. I thought you meant the total was 12.
Oh, total. Too many husbands, 12 husbands, that qualifies as too many husbands.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's quite a bit. I'm not Zsa Gabor, but I believe 12 is.
Well, I agree with you there. Tell me the reason for marrying the multiple husbands. Would you say the reasons boil down to money, love, or sex?
I think it's a combination of all 3 of those, but life goes on. Some of them passed away.
And how did they happen to pass?
Oh, there's different things, car accidents, heart attacks.
I see.
Things like that.
Is it safe to say that they were heavily insured?
Well, of course, I always made sure with my husband that both of us are insured.
Mm-hmm. But they haven't been able to take advantage of being a beneficiary from your demise, but you always seem to benefit from their demise. Is that correct?
Right. I try to keep myself pretty healthy.
Uh-huh.
And I do usually marry older men. So
How much older?
Well, sometimes around 20, 30 years old.
Uh-huh. How old were you when you first had your first husband?
Well, that was rather young back then. I was 16 when I started.
16.
Yeah, you know how it is. You want to get out of the house. You find an older boy,
And how much older was this boy?
well, he was like 32.
32. So double, absolutely doubled.
Yeah. Found him exciting.
Uh-huh.
Wanted to get out.
Uh-huh. And is he
of the
still
house.
alive?
No, we divorced many years ago.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And how long after that first divorce did you remarry?
Pretty quickly after that. I'd say within a year.
Okay.
Are you married, Paul?
As a matter of fact, I am.
You are?
But the interview concerns you, not me. Please.
Are you happily married?
Yeah, I am. Ooh, yeah,
Okay.
I really. Okay. Collectively, we really enjoyed your book.
Thank you
And
very
we're
much.
disappointed that we can't anticipate a sequel in the near future. But
You never know.
you never know. That's all we have time for today. Tune in next week for All About Books. Thanks a lot, Roberta.
Thank you, Paul.